first of all, I'm very focused on civil infrastructure. So I wanted a company that was focused on the sectors that I'm interested in: transportation, energy, water, primarily, and then the built environment itself, but not necessarily architecture as a perspective, but as facilities. The second is I have one of the blessings that Tom gave me was to be able to travel the world and talk to people about best practices in asset management. I was sent out on several safety audits, and I was also able to just to simply go out and engage people around asset management. And so I found the folks in Australia and in the UK particularly consistent with my thinking. And so I was looking for a firm that had found a good foundation in both of those areas, again, in the sectors that I was interested in. And the third thing that really attracted me to Mott MacDonald was some of the thought leadership work that was being done and the role that Mott MacDonald was playing in that thought leadership. As you know, we've talked about asset management, ISO 55000. We also saw the development of BIM and the acceptance of BIM in the UK as standard practice in the infrastructure sector. They call it BIM level 2, or their digital built Britain strategy. So they made that just standard practice in the UK, and that's something that I wanted to access. And then there's a lot of work in smart infrastructure, some of which you guys may be familiar with, coming out of the Center for Smart Infrastructure and Construction at Cambridge. And Mott has been actively involved in developing those principles and practices. My close friend now, Mark Enzer, is one of the leaders in that. And just lastly, thing that attracted me to Mott was the work that we were doing in the digital twin. Mark Enzer was the chair of the National Digital Twin Program for several years. And that was establishing the principles and practices in the information management framework for basically a system of system digital twins in the UK framework, which is very impressive work that you guys should all kind of take a look at.
Wow. So we have a question that somebody wondered if you could talk a little bit more about change management and organizational culture, and why is that so important? Or you have any any other further insight you could share about how that works?
Yeah, I mean, there's kind of two things. I mean, first of all, we're working with mainly a lot of engineers, and we're working with assets that tend to have long lives. So change is not something engineers and long life assets are really comfortable with. And yet the standards and practices that and the management practices that we're talking about of improving and optimizing and introducing information technology, just in that kind of recently, really does require change. It requires organizational change. It requires cultural change. It requires people to get onto that continuous learning route for themselves as individuals and as organizations. And that takes intentional activity. It's not something that happens naturally in the environments that we're working on. But I think today it's even more important. I personally, and now that I'm with Mott MacDonald and I have more freedom to do this, the consequences of climate change, the requirements of meeting the Paris Agreement of 1.5 degrees centigrade, no change above that, the need for infrastructure resilience, and the desire to maintain social contract through social equity, through infrastructure provision, really require deep change. And it requires all of us to get involved in change. And again, there's lots of different types of change. And if you look at systems and ways systems change, there's different levels at which you can affect change. And one of the most important levels that you can affect change is affect people's mindsets. And I think one of the reasons why I like asset management is because it is a new mindset that can affect significant change in an organization.